Hey everybody, I'm Howard, and this is Otter's Retirement Corner. Before I start, I gotta point out, my dog thinks I'm cool. Okay, now during my last video, one of the viewers, and I know I'll probably screw this up, Thorald's boss, asked me about my opinion on Biden's student loan forgiveness program. And my first response was, well, I only do retirement related issues. And while I was typing that out, I said, the only reason retirees would be concerned is if they had student debt. And then I thought, well, you know what? There's several ways it affects the economy. Retirees are part of the economy. Okay, I'll do a video on that. So here it is. And here's the latest release from the White House. And the only thing I'm going to read from this is something really quickly that really bugs me. There's a statement in here towards the top. While Republican elected officials try every which way to block millions of their own constituents from receiving student debt cancellation, President Biden has vowed, blah, 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 blah. It's political. And I hate those political statements in there. Present the problem, present the solution, let us judge it from there. So, there's a lot in here. There's many ways they're trying to reduce student loan debt responsibilities, interest, deferrals, lower payments, just for total forgiveness. So their total approved amount so far is $146 billion. And, so how does that affect retirees? And it pretty much affects retirees the same way it affects everybody else, in that it might have some effects on the economy. So, the first question is, why is Biden doing this? And, I read a lot of comments. Every time there's an article about this, I read a lot of comments that it's nothing but Biden looking for votes. And that may or may not be true. Very possibly true. Only him and his administration knows the truth. But for many years we've been hearing stories, especially during COVID, about growing student debt. And while the number itself is rising, surprisingly, student debt as a percentage of GDP has been falling dramatically over the last 3 years, almost 4 years now. But there is a burden out there. We hear anecdotally about people having trouble making ends meet. They can't survive paying their student loan debt, whether it's $100 or $200 or $300 or $400 a month, whatever it is. If they're not earning enough money and they're not trying to live below their means, they're struggling to buy food and pay rent and electricity and all the problems people with not enough income have. I'm sympathetic to that. You don't want to see people struggle and suffer. Many, and again, I'm going to talk about comments I see both on YouTube and Yahoo and other places. His explanation is he's trying to help those people who are struggling with that debt. I would argue that the problem isn't that they have the debt, it's that they have that amount of debt because tuition rates are too high. My personal feeling is, we do free kindergarten, we do free grammar school, we do free junior high public schools, we do free high school, and then suddenly at the most important part of people's education, college, it's no longer free. So, that's why only 30-some% of people have college degrees, because it costs money. It's expensive to go to college. Personally, I think that state colleges should be free. Whether it's a federal program that helps states pay for it or states pay for it by themselves, state colleges should be free. I'm not saying there shouldn't be private colleges. If you want to go to, University of Chicago where I went, or, MIT or Stanford, wherever it is, and you want to pay that tuition, you're free to do that. They're elite schools. There's other schools, when I grew up in Chicago, there was DePaul and Loyola. The middle of the road, Roosevelt University, some of the middle and lower rated schools. If you want to go there, fine. It's not as much as University of Chicago or others, but it's a fine education. Go there if that's where you want to go. But if you can get into the University of Illinois or several other California state universities or whatever state you're in, that should be free. It would be competitive, and it should be, but that should be free, and we should find a way to pay for that. And please, in your comments, brutalize me on that. I know you will. I'm willing to discuss that and argue with that, but that's my personal feeling. Anyway, so he's saying he's doing it to relieve the burden. Other people will say he's doing it to get votes. But let's look quickly at some of the statistics behind here, though. Student loan debt totals $1.727 trillion. Federal student loan debt, which is all that Biden forgive, is most of that, $1.6 trillion. There's 43 million people who borrow federally student loan debt, with the average balance about 37,000. Now, and here's the important thing: less than 2% of loans enter default every year. So it's not a huge amount. It's a significant amount, but it's not huge. 0.6% are delinquent at any one time. So by and large, the overwhelming vast majority of these loans are paid and paid on time. So interestingly, in the poll I read, 31% of Americans oppose debt forgiveness. Based upon the comments I read, predominantly, well over 90% are probably negative. That's not, statistically valid, but that's just what I see. But I would say to you, stop blaming the borrowers. I read, they're deadbeats. Why did they borrow the money if they can't pay it back? It's their own fault. Why did they get a degree that, they can't earn anything? There's some truth to that, but, stop blaming the borrowers. They tried to get the best education they could, the best way they could, and find the money the best way they could. And this is what they did. And some of them have run into trouble because of it. But by and large, they're paying off their loans. They aren't asking for forgiveness. I don't want to hear them called deadbeats. They're not deadbeats. They're people trying to make their way through life, and they're having trouble because of their student loan debts. That's fine. So is this done for votes? Well, interestingly, if you look at the 2020 presidential election, Biden got 55% of the college graduate vote, college graduate and higher, and 42% for Trump. So he's already got a huge lead in that demographic. So if he's doing it for votes, it's only going to be marginally successful. Ask yourself, if you're a Trump voter and you have student loan debt and Biden forgives it, would you change your vote? Most of what I read is that no, people don't care. Thank you for the student loan debt forgiveness, but I'm still not voting for you. So, whether he's doing it for that reason or not, and I sense he probably is for the most part. I don't know how valuable it is to him. So, and let's talk about how this happens. The comments I see is, we're going to pay out all this money. And I just told you it's $146 billion that's been approved of the 1.6 outstanding debt. There may be more in the future. Whether it's found to be constitutionally allowed in the courts, that's questionable. Biden's first plan, the Supreme Court knocked it down, so who knows? So there's no money going out. I hear, now we're going to have to pay this money. It's taxpayer money. How are we going to pay for this? Well, what happens is it's just revenue not received by the government or the Treasury. So in that respect, it's less money the government has. So as their spending levels stay the same or rise, they make up that difference by borrowing. Now, when you talk about $146 billion in forgiveness, that's over a long period. A lot of these loans are 30-year terms. A lot of the loan forgiveness is after people have been paying for many years. So let's say on average, it's 20 years remaining on these. So then you're looking at $7.3 billion a year. Even if the shorter term, let's say $10 billion a year. In the scheme of things, it's not a lot of money. It's just not. This is not a significant issue. Do taxpayers foot the bill? No. Yes and no. No. You're not going to see on your next tax form, hey, you owe 0.1% more to pay for their student loan forgiveness. You won't pay any more taxes in the foreseeable future. It's not going to change tax laws. We'll just go that much further into debt. We have $34 trillion now. You add $7.3 billion a year. It's nothing. It's nothing in the overall scheme of things. You won't notice it. Plus interest, and we'll borrow the money to pay the interest. You won't notice it. So what happens here? So borrowers who no longer have to pay their $200 or $300 or $400 a month, or if they get knocked off $50 or $100 a month or whatever it is, they'll likely, to a large extent, spend that money in the economy. So there's a plus in that it will help businesses and GDP growth. But in a $27 trillion economy, $7 billion is insignificant. $7 billion a year is insignificant. Even if the whole $146 billion came in the first year and suddenly, they had all this money that they were going to spend on that debt, and now they have it to spend on goods and services, you'd hardly see the needle would move, but you probably wouldn't see it. So how would it affect seniors? Well, if you're a senior with student loan debt and it gets forgiven, hey, congratulations, you're better off. Is it inflationary? Again, it's more money coming in the economy, but again, $7 billion to a $27 trillion economy, if it's inflationary, it's to such a small extent, you won't notice it. So again, retirees will benefit if they have student loan debt. If you don't, you're not going to pay more in taxes. What's going to happen, and it's like the debt in total. It's $34 trillion, and eventually taxpayers will have to pay that. Well, no, they won't. We'll continue to borrow money to pay down the debt. Hopefully, the only way it's going to really hurt it is if it continues to grow at this rate. We've got to stop spending, please. But we can have that $34 trillion in debt out there forever. It's just a matter of managing it and paying the interest. And as the economy grows, that debt is less a proportion of the GDP, and it doesn't hurt us as much. But no retiree is going to pay more in taxes because of this program. I promise you that. And again, you'll tell me in the comments what your opinion is. On a personal note, I got a scholarship to college. So I made it through college without any debt. Then I went to graduate school. I had a choice of going to DePaul, which was going to pay my tuition and give me a teacher's assistant job, or University of Chicago, where I wasn't going to get any assistance. And absolutely everyone I talked to said, whatever you have to do, beg, borrow, steal, go to University of Chicago. And that's what I did. I borrowed, this was back in 89, 90, 91. I borrowed $60,000 plus. After I graduated, I had some deferrals. I was going to play with a squeaky ball, so hopefully that, okay, it went down. So eventually I had like $100,000 in debt, and eventually I paid it off, all right? So do I feel this is unfair? No, I don't. Intellectually, maybe I think it's unfair. Emotionally, I don't care. I'm happy for those people. I don't want to see people struggle. It's not going to affect me one way or the other. If it helps you get through life, good for you. But I understand people who complain about it and say, hey, I have a mortgage I can't afford. Why don't you forgive some of my mortgage debt? I have a car loan I can't afford. Why don't you forgive that? Biden can't do that because they're not federal loans. But I understand that. Why are people getting debt relief when I'm not? And I get that. I understand that. So personally, I don't see the whole point of the program. I really don't. There's no reason to do this. Let's attack the cost of tuition. I'm happy for the people getting the debt relief. I don't understand the program from a national perspective. Not something I would do or endorse. But tell me what you think, please. I know you're going to. Let's have some conversations about this. And keep the ideas coming. Thanks to Thoro's boss for suggesting this. And subscribe, like, and we'll see you next time. Bye.